In 1913, the most western of the Russian cities still betrayed its imperial roots in its name, St. Petersburg. It was about to become Petrograd. There, the crown assembled all its most precious jewels. Among these was the Mariinsky Theater, where the stars Mathilde Cheshinskaya, Anna Pavlova, and Tamara Karsavina danced in the ballets choreographed by Mikhail Fokine. Near the theater was the Mariinsky Imperial School. In 1914, a new pupil arrived who was to become one of the greatest choreographers of the century, George Balanchine. Then he was still known as Georgy Melitonovich Balanchivadze. His enrollment at the school was a misunderstanding. His family wanted to send his sister, but it was he who was accepted. At the school, the days were divided between music and dance classes. In the evenings, the pupils often went to the Mariinsky Theater, where they sometimes appeared on stage. The school was the nursery for the theater.
Дело вперед против врага. За нами будет победа. Власть помещиков и капиталистов, сломленная в России, будет побеждена во всем мире.
In October 1917, Russia fell into the hands of the Bolsheviks. The new government, wanting to break all links with the past, systematically destroyed all signs of the former regime and planned the birth of a new order. The revolution cost Russia dear. For 2 years, there was civil war. The counter-revolutionaries opposed the revolutionaries. Thousands of lives were lost. But thanks to a people's commissar who was a lover of dance, the school survived. In 1921, Balanchine graduated and entered the corps de ballet at the Mariinsky. Balanchine worked tirelessly at the theater each evening and during the day at the conservatoire, where he continued to take composition classes. Living conditions were very hard, and Balanchine said later of this time in his life, "It was a utopian society. Everything was free. The only trouble was that there was nothing." But the pace of cultural activity remained intense. Many artists, among them several futurists, applauded the rise to power of the Bolsheviks. They saw this as a decisive step towards freedom. In the theater, Meyerhold opened an avenue for more physical stagings. In architecture, constructivism reigned, an attempt to create a new future for a new mankind. The world of dance was shaken by the innovations of Foreger, and then by those of Golesovsky, who used the body as a raw material in his choreographic architecture. These were significant for Balanchine's generation. The experiments of Lopukov were to be more significant for Balanchine. While Lopukov was an expert on the classical repertoire, he was also the first to choreograph an abstract dance. Dance without any story, where the movement is a sculptural counterpoint to the music, as in Grandeur de l'Univers. Balanchine was the director of a small company and was now choreographing his first pieces. What would later become the trademarks of his own style were already apparent. A great musicality and a dance constructed as solidly as architecture. But the political climate deteriorated very quickly. In 1921, the Commission on Education and the Arts banned all deviationist tendencies as dangerous for the unity of the Communist Party. It was the first sign of the grip of the iron fist on the arts. Art became simply a tool of propaganda. Artists were compelled to work for the revolution. The artists, led by Mayakovsky, recognized this themselves long before political power became inextricable from its instrument of terror, the Cheka. 1922 marked the beginning of mass deportation of the peasant farmers and the liberals and intellectuals, the beginning of the repression and systematic destruction which would affect 2 generations. On his first tour abroad with his company, Balanchine decided not to return. After a brief stay in Berlin, where he gave some performances, the impresario Diaghilev brought the company to Paris. Balanchine was enrolled in the Ballet Russe. It was spring 1924. Working with Diaghilev meant walking with the avant-garde, with art in one hand and music in the other. It meant the forging of more sophisticated tastes. The Song of the Nightingale, with sets commissioned from Matisse and music from Stravinsky, was one of the many occasions where Balanchine displayed the diversity of his talent. 2 summers running, Diaghilev took Balanchine to Italy. But for Diaghilev, Balanchine might have been only a very competent young artist of the Russian school. Diaghilev helped him acquire a cultural education and to form his own aesthetic. Thanks to him, Balanchivadze became Balanchine. Diaghilev asked him to choreograph a work to the music Stravinsky had written for American patrons, Apollon Musagette. The costumes for the premiere were made by Chanel. She hated anything natural and camouflaged the hair of the dancers with caps of flowers. Apollon Musagette to Stravinsky's music was followed by Le Bal and The Prodigal Son. Balanchine was increasingly in demand. During the summer of 1929, he took advantage of the company holidays to write the choreography for a film in London, in which he took the leading role. During the shooting of the film, Balanchine learnt of Diaghilev's death. The man who had conceived of each production as a collaboration between the visual arts, music and dance, left behind a company which could not survive him. Balanchine worked on whatever proposals were offered him, music hall numbers in London, and new works for the Ballet Russe, now reformed in Monte Carlo, by a patron who saw himself as a second Diaghilev. Balanchine then left for Copenhagen, where the technique of Bournonville still reigned supreme. Finally, with the poet Boris Koshno, he founded a company which would only last for the season which gave it its name, Ballets 33. At that point, the American Lincoln Kirsten, a wealthy Bostonian, entered his life. He had decided to dedicate his fortune to dance. He wanted to establish ballet in America. This was the proposal he made to George Balanchine. Balanchine's first task was to open a ballet school. Nobody knew better than he that there are no good ballets without good dancers, and no good dancers without a strong school. The school was therefore an essential condition of his arrival in America. Most of the teachers were Russian émigrés like himself. During this period, Balanchine made use of the small number of dancers at his disposal to choreograph serenade to the music of Tchaikovsky.
I started serenade as evening classes to show how to be on the stage. I have 17 dancers, and I placed them, I divided so that they're equally like a star. People ask me, why do you place them that way? Because I have 17. If I had only 16, even amount, I will never place them that way. It will be 2 lines.
However, while Balanchine was trying to establish an art form as expensive and as elitist as ballet, America was in the middle of a recession. Strikes and hunger marches multiplied. The country's distress was the more profound because of the previous illusion of its limitless prosperity. America was in the throes of self-doubt, and the ideas of the October Revolution created a tidal wave of support among American intellectuals. Many were convinced that a fairer social order was now possible thanks to communism. For the writers, art had to be concerned with reality, and reality was harsh and cruel. The leaders of the modern dance movement, including Martha Graham, also reflected these concerns. Meanwhile, Stalin led Russia into the worst nightmare of its history. He starved millions of peasants, executed thousands of citizens, and forced everyone to live in fear. Despite the crisis, there was one industry which continued to prosper, the cinema, populist and profitable, and its uniquely American genre, the musical.
I want every young lady to take care of her bag and her coat. Keep them out of the footsteps. Chattanooga, there you are.
Balanchine also organized musical revues on Broadway and signed a contract with Sam Goldwyn, which took him to Hollywood for a while. He even organized a circus number for elephants. Broadway gave Balanchine some extra money. For $500, Hindemith wrote him a score for his new ballet, The Four Temperaments. The Balanchine style became more precise, longer lines, extended use of space, increased energy and speed. In 1948, the Balanchine Company found itself a name, the New York City Ballet. Its school would produce a new generation of dancers.
I have to feed this company. See, like you have to be a chef in a restaurant and you're constantly cooking. And if I didn't cook, we wouldn't have a company.
The Balanchine dancers all possessed a certain physique and a style that was instantly recognizable. They were tall, slim, and flexible with a perfect musicality which exactly suited his style. There were no more plots, but abstract dances, no more ravishing sets, but pure use of lighting, no more hampering costumes, but leotards which revealed the lines of the body. abstraction and the apparent absence of sentiment did not mean that the ballets were devoid of content. For Balanchine, dance was a distillation of emotion. The friendship between Balanchine and Igor Stravinsky led to one of the most important collaborations between a composer and a choreographer in the history of ballet.
Agon is an agony. It's a contest. The word is contest, Greek word, see? And that's what it is. It's just dancers dance different dances, you know?
The choreographer had already paid homage to the composer with Le Baiser de la Fée, the Fairy Kiss, and Jeu de Cartes, Card Game. Their collaboration continued with Orphée, and then in 1957 produced Agon. While Balanchine enlarged the vocabulary of dance and took risks, like Stravinsky, he always worked with tradition and never against it. He was a revolutionary, but never an insurgent.